And I'm live. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Happy April Fool's Day. Today is April 1st. I think it's the fish day, day of the fish in Italy. I'm not sure. Also, happy Wednesday. Introductions. My name is Pearl, and I am from Florida in the United States. Just spit on my screen. In the United States, and I am one of the teachers at the Milano Montenegro School. So if you're watching, please say hi in the chat. I love to talk to the students. It makes the webinar so much better to have someone to talk to instead of speaking to myself. So please don't be shy. If this is your first webinar, there is a delay in the chat, so I will not see your comment immediately, but I do my best to answer your questions and acknowledge them. Hi, Alessia from Treviso. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining me. I don't know if it's our first lesson together, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, so please comment in the chat. It makes everything so much better. Today, hi, Johnny from Padua. Thanks for watching. Today we are going to do a masterclass, and the topic today is genius. It is genius, which I think is fun. Genius. So let's get started. So genius. In this activity, discussing genius, genius quotes, and child geniuses. So we're going to talk about very smart people today. I hope are smart things. Yes, it's my first lesson with you. Nice to meet you. Oh, nice to meet you too, Leslie. Wonderful. Well, thanks for being here. So let's see. So 1% inspiration. Are you a genius? Do you know anyone who is? Name someone from the past or present whom you consider to be a genius. Why? What do you think constitutes a genius? Does being a genius go hand in hand with any social issues or problems? Do we all have it in us to be a genius? So such really thoughtful questions. 1% inspiration is half of a quote. I don't know if you are familiar, but it's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. I don't know if you've heard this quote, which is very, very nice. So being successful is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. I hope you've heard that. It's a really wonderful quote. It means working hard is really what makes you successful. Great. Nice to meet you too, Gianni. Wonderful. All right, and happy April Fool's Day to you all. I hope you play some nice tricks on your friends and family, or you have a nice day considering it's quarantine. All right, so question number 1, let's discuss together. Are you a genius, or do you know anyone who is? So do you all consider yourself a genius, or do you know anyone who is a genius? I personally don't consider myself a genius. I don't think I know anyone personally who is a genius. But I have met people who I think they are geniuses. Very arrogant people. I don't think I'm a genius. I've met very smart people, but I don't know if I could classify them as a genius. Right? I know of people who are geniuses, but don't know anyone personally. Maybe you all know someone who is a genius, or maybe I am not a genius, definitely. I am definitely not a genius. I am definitely not a genius. I'm not a genius too. It's okay. I don't think it's important to be a genius. Maybe just educated is nice. Educated is Nice. Do you know anyone in your life who is a genius? Maybe a family member or a friend who is a genius? Do I know anyone who's a genius? I don't think so. My life is not too exciting. I don't know any geniuses. You know smart people, but not not a genius person. I know smart people too, but I don't know any geniuses. Oh well, I mean, it's fine. I am okay not knowing geniuses. Number two, name someone from the past or present whom you consider to be a genius and why. One friend of mine is very smart, but not a genius. Huh. It's okay. I like having smart friends. I have very smart, educated friends. It's all right. So, name someone from the past or present whom you consider to be a genius. So, someone from the past, someone from the present, someone you don't know. I'm sure there are many famous geniuses in history, like Albert Einstein, I think, was a genius and is still considered a genius by many people because he discovered the theory of relativity and did a lot for the physics world. And he won a Nobel Prize in physics, I believe. A genius. Anyone else? Stephen Hawking is also a genius who also studied physics, right? Who else? Who is alive today that is a genius? Who is alive today that is a genius? Are there any very smart? Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci. Yep, those are great ones, Johnny. Leonardo da Vinci was definitely a genius. He was before his time. He was ahead of his time. He was ahead of his time, Leonardo da Vinci. Definitely. Are there any other famous Italian geniuses? Any other maybe modern geniuses, perhaps? Think American. Elon Musk. I don't know if he's a genius. Maybe he's just a good businessman. I guess it depends on what you consider a genius, which is question number 3. What do you think constitutes a genius? I think Elon Musk is very smart. I think he could be a genius. I'm just going to wait for your responses in the chat. If you can think of anyone else in the past or present who you consider a genius. Neil deGrasse Tyson. These are all physics people. Genius. Bill Gates is a modern genius. Yes, he is a very smart man. Bill Gates is a modern genius. Absolutely. Modern genius. I agree. He is a very smart man. I consider Steve Jobs a genius. I can consider Steve Jobs a genius. Yes, he was. Him and Bill Gates are geniuses. Well, Steve Jobs was a genius. Bill Gates is. He's still alive. A genius. Yes. Anyone else? I can't think of anyone. Warren Buffett, maybe. Sorry, rich people. Very successful people, maybe. All right. In your opinion, number 3, in your opinion, what do you think constitutes a genius? So, what are the factors or characteristics needed to be considered a genius? I think to be obviously intelligence is, I think, important to be considered a genius. Other factors. Let's see. Maybe not successful. I don't know if you have to be successful to be considered a genius. Would be sometimes they are connected. If you are very successful, maybe people consider you a genius. But there are very successful people who are not geniuses, like Kim Kardashian. I don't think she's a genius, but she is very successful. Maybe she is a genius. I don't know. She's a good businesswoman. What do you guys think? Curiosity and the love of learning, a love for learning or the love of learning, yes, are very important qualities to be considered a genius. Definitely being curious about the world around you. An exceptionally intelligent person, like a brain. Yes, like a brain. Yes, an exceptionally intelligent person. Do you all know the name of the organization that measures your intelligence and decides if you are a genius or not? Do you all know the name of that organization that decides if you are a genius or not? I don't know if I think they have it in Italy. They do. It's an international thing. So then they have an organization, maybe you both know, maybe not, that decide to give you a test and they decide if you are a genius because the test measures your IQ. And if your IQ is between or above a certain number, you are considered a genius. Oh, John, I don't know. The organization is called Mensa. I believe it's called Mensa. So Mensa is an international organization, and it's a society, you could say, that you have to be included in, and it measures people's IQ, their intelligence level. And I believe if you are above a certain number, I don't know the number, you are considered a genius. But in case, fun fact. So, but I think Mensa only measures your intelligence. It doesn't measure any other aspects of a person. Like you can be a genius with intelligence, but I think you can also be a genius when it comes to other things like cooking. If you're really good at cooking and creating new recipes or new things, I think that can make you a genius. Or maybe if you're a really good speaker, if you're very persuasive in talking to people, you're a good orator, you could be considered a genius. I don't know. I think genius doesn't necessarily need to be intelligence. You guys think so? No. Share your opinions in the chat. I would love to hear them. All right, next. Does being a genius go hand in hand with any social issues or problems? So what does that mean? What does that phrase mean? What does hand in hand mean? Word. You agree with me? Oh, thank you, Alessia. Thank you for agreeing with me. I think you can be a genius in many different things. Hand in hand, what does that mean? Does being a genius go hand in hand with any social issue? So what does hand in hand mean? It's a very nice expression. Maybe you guys have heard it before. And I think it's like another food or something. Peas in a pod, maybe. It's a really great expression. Let's see, I'm going to wait. Maybe I'm going to wait to see if you guys can tell me what does hand in hand mean. To me, Johnny says, to me, a genius is likely in contrast, not hand in hand with social issues. Okay, let's see, closely associated. Yes, hand in hand means do they go together? Are they closely associated? Yes, good. Closely associated. Oh, what a cute picture. Yeah, so to go hand in hand, we go hand in hand, we do go together. Do they go together? To me, genius is likely a contrast, not hand in hand. I think so, Johnny. Maybe they don't have to be always connected. They don't always have to go hand in hand. But sometimes people who are geniuses, they come up with many great solutions to social issues or problems, or they are very active in those areas. Maybe? I don't know. Yeah. Alessia, what do you think? Does being a genius go hand in hand with any social issues or problems? Maybe. Because I feel like people who are geniuses, not always, I agree, but very often, yes, very often. I think, yes, usually people who are geniuses, they have a large part in social issues because they have that influence. It depends. What does it depend on, Alicia? Like, for example, Bill Gates is a genius, we can agree, but he is very involved in social issues. He's involved in many charities. I think if you are a successful genius, then usually being a genius goes hand in hand with a social issue. But if you are not a famous genius or a well known genius, maybe it isn't, the connection is not so strong. I think there are many geniuses, but usually, if you are a successful and wealthy genius, then yes, you are connected to a lot of social issues or problems. Maybe. I don't know. All right. No comments, questions. So, last question. Do we all have it in us to be a genius? Do we all have it in us to be a genius? What a great question. Do we all have it in us to be a genius? What do you guys think, Alessia, Johnny? Do you think you have it in you to be a genius? The ideas of a genius are in general something advanced that can create problems. Yes, I think that is true. Yes, because many very intelligent people created many terrible things that created a lot of problems. Like the atomic bomb was created by very smart people in the Manhattan Project, or military weapons, chemical warfare. Yeah, so I think you're right. All these wonderful things, they create many wonderful things, but they also create many terrible things that create a lot of problems. So, yeah. So, being a genius can be wonderful, or it can be very dangerous. It depends on how you use your genius, I guess. How you use your genius. Yes, Alessia thinks we do have it in us to be a genius. Oh, that is wonderful. What a wonderful thought. What kind of genius would you like to be, Alessia? What would you like to be a genius in? Music, cooking, literature, writing? What kind of genius would you like to be? I think everyone is a little bit of a genius, a little bit of a genius. Oh, that's very nice. I think it's a very optimistic thought that everyone is a little bit of a genius. But when I look at certain people, when I observe certain people, for example, like the president of my country, I don't know if he is a genius. But sometimes geniuses are crazy, and he is crazy. So I don't know. It is possible. I don't think my president is a genius. But then he became the president. It's a tricky question. Is he a genius? Because he was able to become president, but when he speaks, he does not sound like a genius. Who knows? Oh well. It's just the way the world works, right? But I think it's nice. Everyone has the ability to become a genius. What type of genius do you want to be? I think it would be very nice to be a genius in languages, to have the ability to learn languages, because there are some people who are very talented at learning languages. I would like to be a genius in medical science. That's wonderful, Alessia, especially now. It would be very beneficial and useful. Johnny, I don't know if we all have it in us, but we have to consider that we only use an extremely part of our brain. I have heard that, Johnny, that we only use a small part of our brain. Maybe geniuses are able to use more parts. That's why they are geniuses and we are normal average people. Maybe. I don't know. I think it makes sense. I mean, a part of the brain function is just to keep us alive, like our body functions, like breathing and like stuff like that, regulating our system. And the other part is just intelligence. So yeah, I think it's possible we only use part of our brain. I don't know if we all have it in us. I think it's realistic to think maybe not everyone has it in them, because I also think a lot of people who are geniuses are very hard workers, like it says in the title. 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. 99% perspiration is working hard. So maybe if you perhaps we are potential geniuses. It is possible. We could be. We don't know. Hopefully we have our lives in front of us and we will make a discovery. I don't know. It is possible. Anything is possible if you really try, if you work hard, right? Most of these geniuses are very hardworking, I think, and they're always thinking. All right. Let's continue. What they said. Read these quotes about genius. Genius is the ability to reduce the complicated to the simple. And genius always finds itself a century too early. Okay. So, do you agree with these quotes? Why or why not? And think of the situation or person to whom these quotes apply. Explain your choice. Genius is the ability to reduce the complicated to the simple. This reminds me of another quote. You would sell your soul to be a genius in the environmental field. Wow, that is a very strong statement. I love it. It's wonderfully worded. The grammar is correct. Great sentence. But why, Johnny? Why would you sell your soul to be a genius in the environmental field? I mean, it's a wonderful cause. We definitely could use a few geniuses in the environmental field, especially considering the environmental changes that the world has gone through and is going through. But yes, I am curious. Why would you sell your soul? It's a strong statement. To be a genius in the environmental field. Or do you currently work in the environmental field, Johnny? Maybe that's why you would do it. And Alessia, why would you want to be a genius in medical science? These are great fields, and I would love to know why you guys. What kind of genius would I want to be? Just probably in languages. I think that'd be very interesting to be a genius in languages. That way I could communicate with as many people as I wanted to. I agree with the first quote. I agree with the first quote as well. I worked all my life in that field, but there is still massive work to do. There is. It's really unfortunate. What is your job, Gianni? What do you do? Are you an environmental scientist? Maybe like you're a biologist? Conservationist? What is your job? I'm very curious. Maybe your colleagues already consider you an environmental genius in your field since you have worked your whole life in this area. You agree with the first one. Genius is the ability to reduce the complicated to get to the simple. I'm very curious. This delay in the chat is really, really annoying. It's really unfortunate as well, so I can't see your comments in real time. Albert Einstein, I believe, he said something very similar to the first quote, and it was, "If you cannot explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough." If you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. I was a chemical engineer dealing with wastewater treatments. Wow, what a wonderful job. That's just it's very admirable, that job. A chemical engineer, water waste. The water here is a lot better than the water in America, so I think you'd be more beneficial in America. But that's a really great cause. But you said you were, so I am assuming you do not do that anymore. Are you retired, Johnny? Maybe? Alicia, because I love to find solutions and rescue people. Oh, that's very nice. Yes. What a great reason to be a genius in the medical field, especially considering the virus, the pandemic we are in now. Okay, yes, as I was saying, Albert Einstein said a very similar quote to number one, which is, "If you cannot explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough," which is more or less the same, as genius is the ability to reduce the complicated to the simple. Good. Why do you agree with these quotes? The first one. Why do you agree with the first one? I am retired, but still interested in this field. Oh, that's nice. I mean, I guess you really can do research, but that's nice. I guess maybe helping colleagues or the future generation of chemical engineers would be nice. You'd be a mentor. That'd be cool too. All right. So, why do you agree with the first quote? Mhm. Yes, new generations are the future. Absolutely. And we need good mentors to guide the new generation. So you could definitely be a mentor to future chemical engineers and help influence them in dealing with wastewater treatments or pollution, factories. Yeah. Clean energy, renewable energy would be wonderful. Especially, you guys don't live in Milan, but Milan has terrible pollution here, and I really, really, really is a shame, the pollution here. Right. So why do you agree with the first one? Why do you agree? Genius is the ability to reduce the complicated to the simple. Why do I? I also agree with this quote. I feel because why do I agree? I agree because I think there are many complicated things. And if you can break down an idea or a theory or a thought into simple terms for everyone to understand, then that's a truest sign of genius, right? Because a genius with all his skills can help others to understand better. Exactly. A genius can help others understand better. And sometimes these ideas are very complicated and very complex and advanced. And if you are able to explain it simply to someone who is not a genius, then you're a very smart man. Because to reduce to simple is one of the most difficult things to carry out. I agree, it is. To sometimes explaining grammar points. When I first started teaching, explaining grammar points, advanced grammar points, was very difficult. But now it is okay. It is easier than before because practice makes perfect. All right. Number two. Genius always finds itself a century too early. What a great quote as well. Genius always finds itself a century too early. Do you agree with the second quote or do you disagree? I agree with the second quote. I agree with the second quote. I think it is true. Do you guys think? Do you agree with the second quote? Genius always finds itself a century too early. I definitely agree. I agree. Tell me why. If you disagree or agree, tell me why as well. I agree with this quote because when I think of innovators or great inventors, their ideas usually seem very extreme or very surreal and impossible, but usually their ideas come to fruition or they come true later on in the future, usually when they're dead. And it's just a shame. So I think this is a very true statement. And really agreed. So I definitely agree because sometimes you need to dream, you need to be a dreamer to think of wonderful things and inventions. And usually these dreams are a little extreme and a little surreal, and it doesn't make sense to simple minded people. So usually I agree. They're always ahead. They are always ahead. They are great thinkers, right? I agree with the second quote as well. And more than that, they are appreciated as geniuses only later on after death. I know it is a very sad thing. No one appreciates people's genius till after, even musicians. I think with some musicians, we don't appreciate, or artists like Monet. No, not Monet. Van Gogh wasn't considered a genius when he's a wonderful painter, and it wasn't appreciated until after he died. Can you think of a person that reminds you? Well, what does this quote remind you of? Can you think of a person that applies to this quote, or this a quote applies to? Genius always finds itself a century too early. I mean, the picture next to it is a great example of Leonardo da Vinci. Yes, Van Gogh, for example. Yes, he was an artistic genius and he wasn't appreciated until after he died. He died poor, which was very sad. Poor Van Gogh. Da Vinci, for sure, he had many sketches, drawings of planes and inventions that I think in the past were probably very far-fetched and crazy, but now they make sense. He was very ahead of his time, Da Vinci, for sure. Another person. Ooh, Benjamin Franklin. I don't know if Italians know a lot about Benjamin Franklin, but Benjamin Franklin was a founding father of the United States. He was one of the people who was instrumental in helping America become a country in the beginning stages. And he actually created design for bifocals for glasses, which I think was very interesting. So he was ahead of his time as well. Any other people? I have a great question. Another person. Oh, I have a good question for Johnny and Alessia. Do you think if you invent something, you are a genius? Like, for example, do you think, I can't remember the Italian person's name, but the person who created the telephone? Because at first in America, we thought it was Alexander Graham Bell, but later it was discovered that an Italian man created the telephone. And I can't remember his name. What's his name? Do you think it's gonna come back to my mind? Antonio Meucci, right? I think. Yes. Maybe he invented the telephone. Yeah, I think. But do you think inventors are geniuses? Are geniuses? Like an inventor of the telephone or the The light bulb. Are all inventors geniuses? I don't know. Maybe not. I think the person who invented chocolate chip cookies was a housewife. Maybe she was. Oh, you guys know. Maybe she. Yes. Thanks, guys. Do you think he was a genius? Are all inventors geniuses? The Wright brothers, when they invented the airplane, maybe they're. I don't know if they're geniuses. Maybe they were lucky. Tesla, I think he was a genius, though. Who's the competitor? Edison, were they geniuses? I don't know. They were inventors. And they were very creative, and they were all ahead of their time. So maybe they are geniuses according to our categories or factors that we considered geniuses. Good to know. What do you guys think? Are all inventors geniuses? I think maybe yes. It takes a lot of creativity and determination to create something new that no one else has thought of before. Maybe the cell phone. Who invented the cell phone? That was pretty smart, I think. All right. Well, you guys answered. It's a great question. For me, they're not geniuses. Maybe they had luck. Geniuses. Okay, let's see. So maybe not all inventors are geniuses. Most of them are probably lucky. It is possible. Some people are very lucky and fortunately, they discover something on accident. They're just lucky people. What do you think, Johnny? Do you think all inventors are geniuses or maybe they're just lucky? I don't know. Maybe Alexander Graham Bell was just lucky to be working close or with Meucci. I don't know. Yes, they can be lucky, but there is always an important part of genius if you manage to create something useful to people. That is true. So yes, 1% is inspiration, 99% perspiration. We're just going to go back to that quote. Right? I think so. Need a little bit of both. All right. A prodigy. Yes, we love a prodigy. Read about this child genius from Hong Kong. A 9-year-old maths genius from Hong Kong has been accepted to study mathematics at a local university. Child prodigy March, I'm not going to pronounce that last name because Botiharjo, I don't think I'm getting it right. March something will become the youngest college student in the city. The university will create a specially designed 5-year course which will see him gain a bachelor's and master's degree. Oh, wonderful, Johnny. Exactly. Number 1, do you foresee any issues for 9-year-old March? What are the advantages and drawbacks for the university? How would you feel if you were 18 years old and in the same lectures as a 9-year-old? And do you know of any other child geniuses? I'm not sure. I think this is a true story. I'm not positive, but I think it may be true. So, do you foresee any issues for 9-year-old March by attending this university course at 9 years old? It's very impressive. He is probably, definitely a genius. Right? Do you see any issues? Do you foresee any issues? Can you predict any issues? Oh, he is a real person. I had to Google it. I was very curious. Do you see for any issues for 9-year-old March? Well, I think that if you're 9 years old and you already are attending a university to to obtain your bachelor's and master's degree, I think you will have a lot of pressure on you to succeed because everyone will be watching you and observing you, and you will have high expectations set upon you by these people because they think you're so smart already and they're just always going to observe to see what you will do next. There's a lot of pressure. I think that's a lot for a 9-year-old. Also, I assume he will be away from his family, which I think at 9 is very sad because that's your prime years of growing up, and to be around your family is very nice. Yes, a lot of pressure for a 9-year-old. A lot of pressure, right? And maybe I think going to school at 9 at university, you probably won't have a normal childhood, which is fundamental for, development, early childhood development, to have a normal childhood. I don't see any big issue for March, perhaps for the university staff. Yeah, absolutely. What are the issues for the university staff? This could be a drawback. What is the drawback for having March attend this university? Or what are the advantages of having? I think it's an advantage of having a 9-year-old prodigy or a genius attend your university is great publicity and great press, and maybe more donors would be interested in your university and therefore provide a lot of funding for research projects. So great publicity for the university. And maybe a challenge for them to adapt and create a new program. And maybe by having a 9-year-old prodigy, it will influence other prodigies to maybe want to join the same university. I don't know. A drawback, an issue for university staff, probably to have to adjust your teaching methods to a 9-year-old as opposed to an adult, an 18-year-old or older. Absolutely. It's good to wait for your comments. I'm sure March he's a real person. I Googled it. But I think now he is 22. He is 22 years old now. Yeah, he is 22 years old. Lucky him. Oh yeah, I also think a lot of opportunity for him as a person to travel, to meet people, to go to very prestigious universities, most likely. Any other comments? Great. While you guys are writing, I'm going to continue. How would you feel if you were 18 years old and in the same lectures as a 9-year-old? I think I would feel the same. Personally, I wouldn't feel bad. I would actually be very fascinated that this student who is 9 and is extremely smart. But personally, I don't think it would change how I feel about myself. I would think that I was normal and he was the exception to normality, and I would be okay. I honestly think I would be okay with it. What do you guys think? I think when I was in university, there was a high school or middle school student in one of my university classes, but he was a very nice boy. It was fine. Right? It is a great opportunity for other students, teachers to improve their points of view or knowledge. It is a great opportunity, absolutely. A young, fresh mind to bring forth ideas that other people who haven't thought of yet. Because I feel like sometimes when you are in a field for a very long time, it becomes more difficult to think outside the box and think of new things. But if you are young and fresh, you are better able to look at things from a different perspective, which is wonderful. Let's see. I would feel not enough. Oh, I hope not. I think that people might feel that way if you're 18 and a lecture with a 9-year-old. But remember, I would think that if the class is full of 20 18-year-olds and only one 9-year-old, we are obviously the norm and he is the exception to the rule. I would be very interested in this new adventure. I would be interested teaching. I've taught 9-year-olds before. I've taught 9-year-olds, but they were not geniuses. So I don't know what it would be like to teach a 9-year-old genius. I think it would be very exciting because it would force me to adapt to a new environment, a new teaching strategy. Even talking to a 9-year-old, I think a 9-year-old prodigy would have a very elevated way of thinking and producing his ideas. So very interesting. It's like an adult in a little person's body. So it would be very, very nice. Do you know of any other child geniuses? I personally don't know any child geniuses, and I'm trying to think if I know of any other famous child geniuses. I don't know. Would you consider Greta Thunberg a genius? She's a child, right? And she is involved in a social issue. So would you consider Greta a genius or a prodigy? It's a very good question. I don't know if I would consider her a genius. I think she is very smart, though. Well, Johnny, this is a good question. As a chemical engineer who is interested in the environmental field, do you consider Greta is her last name Thunberg? Greta, do you consider Greta a genius? Yeah, Thunberg. I was right. Greta Thunberg. Maybe she's a genius in the environmental field. I don't know. How old is she? How old is Greta? Do you guys know? She's 17. She's not a child, but she's very young. I don't know if I would consider her a genius. Let me leave that to you guys. Do you think Greta Thunberg is a genius? I would consider Greta very smart, but not a genius. I think she is very smart. I don't know. I think I agree with you, Les. I think Greta is very smart, but I don't know if she's a genius. But she does have some characteristics of a genius, right? I appreciate quite a lot. I appreciate Greta quite a lot, but I don't consider her a genius for now. I think so too. I think she has it in her. She has it in her to be a genius, but I don't consider her one now. Maybe in the future, but she does have a lot of qualities of a person who we can consider a genius. She works very hard. She's involved in social issues, political issues. What else did we say? She's very inspiring and she's very influential. So I don't know. I think she's very possible she could be a genius one day, not today. She could be a Nobel Prize winner for peace. Maybe next year. We don't know. All right. We have reached the 50-minute mark. So we're going to stop for now. But Johnny and Alessia, thank you so much for watching or participating in this webinar with me. It makes it so much better when the students talk to the teachers, so we're not talking to ourselves. But I hope you enjoyed the lesson, the Masterclass lesson. And I hope you have a good April Fool's Day and that you stay safe and that you stay inside, of course. And I hope to see you guys again. Don't forget, master classes are every day at 12 p.m. Every day at 12 p.m. with different teachers. Bye, guys. Thank you.